Hey there, this is Miss Winakur. I'm from 21st Century Pasco, and I work at Marie Curie STEM Elementary School. And today we're going to be doing another read aloud. So we're going to be reading a book called Thank You, Omu, written and illustrated by Oge Mora. I want you guys to notice something even before we start. Do you guys notice those? Those are called book awards. And so we're going to talk about those because not only did it have one, but it has two. So, first one, it's called the Caldecott Honor Book. So that award is for an author or illustrator. Well, in our case, Oge Mora is the person who wrote and illustrated our book. So Oge actually won the Caldecott Honor Award for the beautiful illustrations of the pictures in this book. So as we're reading, I want you to look at how beautiful the illustrations are. And then the second award was the Coretta Scott King Award. Do you see that green one? So that book is so special because it represents an author who has represented the African American culture in the most authentic way. So this book has won 2 awards and is just a fabulous read. So I'm super excited. So the first thing that we're going to learn today, because this is a fiction book, that we're going to learn the central message, which you also, depending on your grade level, you might have heard of the word theme or main idea, but basically theme, main idea, central message, all the same. It is, as we're moving through the book, I want you to pay attention to what the characters are doing, what the pictures look like, what the characters are thinking, because the author is trying to tell us a message. And so we need to pay attention to what message that is. And so we're going to use evidence to support our central message or main idea or what the theme is. Because in fiction books like this one, you're going to learn that there's a lesson to be learned. And then we have some vocabulary words like the word stew or scrumptious or wafted or blue and vendor. So let's go over those words. So our first one is stew. I want you to look at that picture. So, of course, it's a mixture of meat and other food cooked very slowly. I want you to think, has your grandmother or your mom or your dad or your grandpa, has anyone made you a stew before? In all honesty, I've only had a beef stew. So that would be the picture that you see right there. There would be carrots and potatoes and cilantro and just deliciousness and beef, and it's very good. So remember, we're going to look through that word and we're going to see the word stew. So, scrumptious. So have you ever eaten something and was like, that's so tasty? Well, another word for tasty is scrumptious. That little boy is licking his fingers. You can tell whatever he's eating, it's scrumptious. Wafted. So when I think of wafted, I move my arms. Wafted means to move lightly through the air. So when you see, clouds and anything in the air that you see is thick like a fog and it's moving slowly, that's wafted. Like the fog wafted through my neighborhood. And it's moving because it's windy and the air is pushing it. Next one, vendor. And a vendor is a person who sells something. So right there you see that person is selling bread and it looks like sandwiches. Have you guys ever been to the Pasco Farmers Market? Because lots of vendors sell many things there. They sell bracelets and all kinds of things. And then the Pasco Flea Market, they sell stuff as well. A vendor might be selling produce like carrots or strawberries. And remember, a vendor is something or a person who sells something. And then blue, not the color blue, like my shirt, but blue means sad or unhappy. Have you ever felt blue before? So next time you see somebody who is sad or unhappy, you can actually tell them, hey, you're looking blue. Now, we are going to go over this as soon as we get back from reading, but just so you can think about this, the central message or theme. So we can start with the lesson is, or the lesson of the story is, okay? And so let's get started. All right, so let's begin reading. I'm so excited. Thank You, Omu, written by Oge Mora. And I want you to remember that Oge Mora wrote and he also illustrated the pictures in this book. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Omu was cooking a thick red stew. Do you guys remember what stew means? If you think, or if you said out loud that it is a big pot of vegetables and meat cooking for a long time, then you are correct. So, was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it, and it took a small taste. What a delicious stew, Omu said. Tonight's dinner will be surely the best I've ever had. Omu looks very excited. Have you guys ever cooked something, or your parents made you something, or your sister or brother made you something, and it just looked so delicious? With that, Omu put down her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door down the hall towards the street and around the block until someone was at the door. When Omu opened it, she saw, really quick before I go to the next page, did you guys see that they used some of our vocabulary words multiple times? So let's break that apart. So the sentence that says, as the thick red stew, remember the stew is the big pot that was simmering with meat and veggies, it's scrumptious scent. So I want you to think, when you put cinnamon rolls in the oven, don't you smell it? So the scent of the stew is wafted. It's moving through her house, and so that she can just smell it. And then the scent actually went outside the window because the window was open. And so someone knocked on her door. Do you think they smelled the stew? We're going to find out. Remember, scrumptious means tasty. And it was a little boy. Little boy, Omu explained, what brings you to my home? I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell. The little boy replied, what is it? Thick red stew. He sighed. That sure sounds yummy. Do you think Omu's going to share with her? We'll see. I want you to remember, think about the central message. What lesson are we trying to learn? So right now, that little boy wants something. I want you to think about, what does he want? And if you said this stew, you are correct. Omu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had made quite a lot. It would not hurt to share. Would you like some? The little boy nodded, and so Omu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Omu, the little boy said, and went on his way. That was very nice of Omu. With that, Omu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall towards the street, and around the block until knock, knock, someone was at the door. When Omu opened the door this time, she saw, who do you think is going to be at that door? Who do you see next to the little boy? So the little boy is taking this scent because he's carrying this scrumptious stew across the neighborhood. And do you see the police officer? Let's see who knocks on the door. A police officer! Miss Police Officer, Omu exclaimed. What brings you to my home? Well, I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell, Miss Police Officer replied. What is it? Omu said. Thick red stew. Stew, she said, and her mouth watered. That sounds mighty tasty. So I just want you to think, have you ever tried to eat something and your mouth was watering because you were so excited to eat it because it smelled good or looked good, or you just remember the taste from the last time you ate it? Well, that's how I feel when I eat watermelon. My mouth waters because I love watermelon. So yesterday when I went to Costco and I bought a watermelon and I cut it open, oh my gosh, the color of the watermelon was perfect. And then I took a bite of it and it was the best bite ever. It was scrumptious, meaning tasty. Omu thought for a moment. There was still enough time to share. Would you like some? The police officer nodded. Once again, Omu spotted some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Omu, the police officer said, and went on her way. So Omu's now shared her stew how many times? Once with the little boy and once with the police officer. And so for the second time, Omu closed the door and went back to her book. Sure enough, as she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, towards the street, and around the block until again someone was at Omu's door. This time she opened it and she saw a hot dog vendor. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor, Omu exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was selling hot dogs down the block, and when I smelled the most delicious smell, Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied, what is it? Thick red stew. Ooh, stew. The vendor licked his lips. That sounds quite delectable. That means delicious. So Omu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat red pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Omu, the hot dog vendor said, and went on his way. Do you think she's running out of stew? What do you think is going to happen if she gave it all away? We'll find out. Throughout the day, people from across the neighborhood knocked on Omu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an agent, a lawyer, an actor, a dancer, a baker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker, even the mayor stopped by. Soon the sky darkened, the streetlights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. But when Omu opened her big, fat, red pot of stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Oh man, that's hard. Omu sniffed. There goes the best dinner I ever had. Sorry and blue, she sat at the empty table with her empty pot until... What else could that be, Omu wondered. When she opened the door, she saw the little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the actor, the doctor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed was at her door. I'm sorry, everyone, Omu sighed. My thick red stew is gone. I have nothing left to share. The little boy tugged at Omu's sleeve. Don't worry, Omu. We are not here to ask. We are here to give. The police officer carried in a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Omu with something special and shiny in a red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Omu's door that day squeezed inside her tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. While Omu's big fat pot of red stew was empty, her heart was filled with happiness and love. That dinner was the best she ever had. Thank you, Omu. Wow. Okay, so I want to read the author's note because remember this book's really special because it won 2 awards. So in Igbo, the Nigerian language of my parents, Omu means queen. Yet for me growing up, it meant grandma. When my grandma cooked, she danced and swayed her hips to the radio as she stirred what was often a large pot of stew. In the evening, my family would come together at the dinner table for her meal. If a neighbor was visiting, they were invited. If a friend had stopped by, they were invited. Everyone in the community had a seat at my grandma's table. While my grandma has passed away since, her giving heart has stayed with me. I see it in my mother, my godmother, my teachers, my mentors, and the other countless powerful women who have shaped my life. This book is a celebration of their loving, giving spirits. Thank you. That's amazing. So this book is in honor of Omu, who is Oge Mora's grandmother. But let's go ahead and let's review what our central message is. So now that we finished reading the book, I want you to think about what was the lesson learned. So I know it's on the screen, but honestly, think about it. So let's create some things that Omu did or that happened in the story. So Omu was making this giant, big red pot of stew. And what happened? every time she got to sit down and read while her stew was cooking, somebody went on the door, and then people actually ended up getting some of her stew. And so by the time everybody got her stew, she was left at none. So she gave the stew to the little boy, and then the police officer, and then the hot dog vendor. And then what happened? She sat down and realized that she doesn't have any more stew. And then when everybody came back, all the people she gave the stew to, she came back and they came back. They came back to her house and they told her that they brought a feast. So the police officer brought a salad, the mayor brought a roast chicken. And so the lesson learned is if you give to others, they will give to you. So why do you think what, what details do you think support this lesson? So we just talked about them. We talked about what the characters did or what Olmo said and what she learned through the story or what we learned through the story. I don't think she learned the lesson, but as a reader, the author is telling us that if you give to others, they will give to you. So just like Omu gave the soup to all the people who came and knocked on her door, they gave to her by giving her a feast. So I want you to think, what can you do? What can you give to others? Not always wanting to receive something or that they're going to give something to you, but just giving to others is a great lesson in itself. But thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, year, summer, whenever you're watching this. So thank you.